welcome to the show. And if you're tuning in for the first time, make sure to subscribe or follow the show wherever you're listening or watching so you don't miss any future episodes. I've got some great guests coming up. You don't want to miss these guests. But my guest today, Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater, is a Juilliard trained musician who's just got a brilliant music mind. And I, on the other hand, do not. I don't know a fraction of what he knows. Nor am I a diehard Dream Theater fan, as I'm sure many of you listening are. So please go easy on me for this interview. I really enjoyed the interview. I really enjoyed talking about Jordan's early music days, when he almost played on Pink Floyd's The Wall, how he joined Dream Theater. We talk about the new Dream Theater album, the apps he's developed, and more. So enjoy it. Please welcome Jordan from Dream Theater, Liquid Tension Experiment, and your solo career, right?
Thanks, man. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's exciting. So you started playing piano in second grade. You didn't even have a piano at home. You just started playing in the classroom, right?
That's right. Basically, what happened was that there was this piano that was against one of the walls in the classroom, and I was kind of drawn to it. And so I was like picking out melodies and doing stuff. And one day the teacher called up my mother and said, "Hey, Jordan is playing the piano so beautifully in the classroom. He's accompanying the kids in the little songs and everything." And my mother was like, "What are you talking about? Like, we don't even have a piano. You must be thinking of another kid." She was like, No. He's playing. You should know about
Yeah.
that.
So is this like your first foray into like you would never, before that, there's no other instruments at home. You just kind of figured out that you knew had this aptitude for this.
No one in my family played an instrument, and we didn't have a piano. So we just, I don't know, my mother bought one like, a week
After
later,
that,
and
yeah.
had this nice little piano, and I started taking lessons, and then, of course, never stopped.
Yeah. So then explain this, because you went to Juilliard, but did you enter at age 9 years old? You didn't actually go to Juilliard. Was there some sort of like pre-Juilliard school?
Yeah, so the way Juilliard works is there's a preparatory division, which is for younger people, and then there's the college division. So
Okay.
there's people at Juilliard that are like 8 years old, maybe I don't know about 7, but very young. A lot of them come from like Asia, where, they're like taught to like sit and practice at a very young age and just focus, and they can do amazing things. There was a kid I went to Juilliard with. I was 9. He was 9. He was writing operas. It was like ridiculous. His name, I even remember his name because it had a big effect on me at the time. I was thinking, what's this kid? Ken Yoda was writing operas at Juilliard. So there was very, very talented kids going to the preparatory division, but that was a division that was like, basically Saturdays were when they ran that prep school.
Mm-hmm.
And then most of the kids, if not all of them, would take additional lessons with their main teacher at some point during the week. So I was basically once I started at Juilliard, my mother would drive me into the city. I'd take a lesson like on a Tuesday or Wednesday. And then on Saturdays, I'd be doing the Juilliard thing. And then another day, somebody would come to my house and teach me composition. So there was it was very kind of like intense once that started, and there wasn't a whole lot of room for, anything else. So, that was kind of like my, the beginning of, my path.
So does that push you to get better being around all these other kids that are so talented? Or did you ever have like the thought like, oh man, I should just quit. I'm never going to be as good as these other kids. Or is it everyone just trying to improve themselves?
Well, I was in my own space and getting enough encouragement and just people behind me to feel like, I could do what I would. First of all, I always loved playing music, so nothing was going to take that away. But you're right. I mean, in the sense that there was a lot of competition. There were kids who were playing pieces that were harder than the ones I was playing at a younger age or whatever. But I didn't so much take that into my life. I was more on my own path and feeling good about it and working really hard to do what I do. I think, definitely some people could get left by the wayside with the kind of things you're talking about, but that wasn't.
Did you just get like obsessed with music? I mean, did you ever feel like you're missing out on something else, or you really just wanted to spend all your time doing music?
I really did. I mean, I totally wanted to spend all my time doing music. I do remember the day that I was walking along in my street near where I live, and these girls were on their bicycles that were kind of like around my age. And they stopped me. Oh, you were always just sitting, kind of almost teasing me. You're always just sitting around, just practicing. Like you never come out, like, you know, and I felt a little bad. But then I was like, you know what? You're right. That's what I do. I didn't care. Like, you know, it stuck with me because it pointed out to me that, okay, I'm living a very different life. I'm just this kid who nobody sees. I'm just like, you know,
Yeah.
they were like, and they were making fun of me a little bit, but, hey,
Who has the last laugh? Yeah.
yeah, you want to do something really well and focus on it. Maybe this is how you do it.
It's almost like it's a drug for you. Like you're addicted to this, like it's a drug, but it's a positive thing. I mean, it's not destructive in any way. You're bringing all this.
I think that it's interesting that you put it that way because it's something to really think about. First of all, music is something that many of us love so much.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know musicians or people who picked up instruments and tried to make it in the musical space, but maybe they weren't quite good enough or they didn't have enough time to do it, but they still love it. And maybe they tried. And so
I love to listen to music. I can't play it all, but I love listening.
But music is like a drug. It's something that brings us pleasure. So how much time can we really invest in this drug or this pleasure? Like, what's really okay? I mean, there's real life. There's other things to deal with. There's all kinds of stuff. There's other education that needs to happen, whatever. So there is a bit of a balance issue that one could say that in my life that I play with, like, well, maybe like my friend Stephen Wilson says, you know, to do what we do, we have to be a little bit selfish, right? So, and he's right, because, you know, we're trying to do something so well, and it involves this thing called music. And so we want to do it all the time, but there are other things to deal with. So it's like, how do you balance that out? You know, I could sit at the piano for the rest of the day and just play, and I'd be in the happiest headspace, right?
Right.
Is that okay?
But you got to do podcasts and you got to do business stuff, I'm sure. And
there's a lot of stuff. Yeah. I mean, for sure. And I just don't want to be like, I can't afford to be just totally swallowed up by my own pleasure.
No, but you said you had an interesting mentality. You say that there was nothing else that you could imagine yourself doing. So even if you were just playing piano at a bar or a French restaurant down the street, like you were going to play music.
Yeah.
What's that?
I played in a French restaurant.
Yeah.
And I played in bars. And yeah. Right.
So what if it got to the point where like you're playing, you could play on the street or something you would have done that if you couldn't have, if you'd gone down a different path?
I've done that too, though.
Really?
I've done all the above. Yeah,
wow.
For sure. When I was younger, before my career happened, I remember playing on the street a little bit. Sure.
Okay. So
not like a person who's like desperate for money.
Yeah.
But more just like kind of was young
to help out or
play in the street.
Yeah, that's cool. So is this a true story? Because, you know, Wikipedia can sometimes not be true, but you were you didn't play on Pink Floyd's The Wall, but you were invited to the sessions, but then the producer rejected your work or something. But you were possibly going to be on Pink Floyd's The Wall. Right?
So
is that true?
There is truth to that.
Okay.
But the story is deeper than that.
Oh.
Yeah. I was, okay, so I had a friend of mine, a dear friend, Blue Ocean. That was his name, Blue Ocean. And I was actually in the Ocean Star band for a while. And we used to sit around at his place. And he was like, you know, this guy who was a drummer, but he also was very connected with a lot of the studios. He used to deliver like 8 balls in the middle of the night to them, like so they could stay awake. And, you know, but we were friends and we played music together. We were just hanging out and getting high or whatever the hell we were doing. And one day he said to me, Jordan, he says, come on, man. He says, I just got a call. You're going with me. He was a little older than me. So I was kind of like tagging along with him, said that he was kind of fun and cool. And also he had the best drugs. So we were
I didn't know you were into the drug. I never heard that part of this.
Not anymore.
Okay, sure, of course.
Anyone, but I'm 64 years old and life is long. But anyway, we're talking about that specific time period.
Sure.
So he said, come on, let's go do this. I was like, sure, let's go. And then when we were going to the studio, I knew nothing about it. He says, oh, you know, you can play snare drum, right? Like I was like, wait, snare drum. I played that in 3rd grade. Like I was, you know, so we got to whatever. I didn't know where we were going.
Yeah.
So we got there and I'm playing, you know, he hands me some sticks and puts me at a snare drum. And there were like, whatever, like 14 drummers there. It's this beautiful studio. Still didn't know what it was. And I start going, trying to remember how to do that. And, you know, the guy, Bob Ezrin, he looks at me and he says, I don't know. Like maybe you can hang out. Like we don't really need you to play. A couple of guys got, we just kind of pinned it down to, I guess, the guys who we thought were the best. And so I went into the control room. It was very casual. I just walked in the control room. All of a sudden I hear like David Gilmour's voice. They were rewinding because we were playing on that whole section that's "Bring the Boys Back Home," right? So I heard like the guy in Pink Floyd, and I'm thinking, what the hell is this? Because mostly they were just going to that one section, but they happened to rewind a little bit more, and I heard the Pink Floyd voice. I said, "Holy shit, is this a Pink Floyd session?" And I didn't care that I got kicked off the drums. I mean, fuck it, I'm not a drummer anyway. I was hanging out with my friend, kind of enjoying whatever this was. So I thought to myself, this is a fucking Pink Floyd session.
That is so cool. Yeah. Even just to be in that room and everything and hear the song before it came out.
It's a funny memory, right? I mean, I only heard that one section and they happened to rewind a little bit too far. But so that story is true. It was a long time ago. And I got to, I was in I got kicked off the Pink Floyd session.
That's a cool story though. So then you start this solo career. And then I guess it took a while because it wasn't until 94 when you were voted best new talent. And then at that point you had two offers, right? You had the offer to join Dixie Dregs or Dream Theater, and you chose the Dregs because you could still do your solo stuff and have more flexibility, right?
Right. Hey, you know what? Next time I get an interview and I don't feel like doing it, I'm calling you. Talk about me. And now, thanks to the little good, juicy tidbits I'm filling in, you even know more.
Right. This is good. This is good stuff. So yeah, that's really smart though. But then, so like Dream Theater, like didn't give up on you. They just kept they must have really wanted you to wait.
So I decided to do the Dregs. It was a tough decision, but my wife and I just had a child, and it was a lot of parameters going. It was financial, emotional, personal, all those things. And I decided that I kind of knew who the Dregs were. They were a band that was part of my radar, where Dream Theater kind of wasn't. Although I was turned on to them, I liked them all. Their music was really, really cool. But I kind of made a decision based on all those factors to do that. But then, then I got the call to do the Liquid Tension thing not that long after all that, and that sounded really cool. So I didn't join Dream Theater, but I got a chance to work with John and Mike. So did that and did 2 albums with them. And then after that, they were kind of like, "Hey, Jordan, want to revisit this?" Because then we knew that we really got along, and we could compose music together and work together. And their career had also blossomed, and things changed to where it was going to be more practical for me to actually do it. So I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so that, of course, led to Scenes from a Memory.
Yeah, and then Liquid Tension Experiment, you're still doing that too. They just had a recent album this year, right?
We did. After 22 years, we got back together and put the LTE3 album together.
Yeah, that song, I haven't listened to all that stuff, but the Acid Rain, I think that's your most popular song on Spotify. That song, I mean, it's the musicianship on that song. I mean, all your bands, all your work, I've listened to so much of it. It just blows my mind. Cause again, I'm not a musician. I'm like, how do you guys even write these songs? Is it complicated?
Well, it can be. Let's give it some perspective. I mean, for me, just speaking totally personally, I have done a lot of training, and my biggest thing in my life is to be able to connect what's in my head to my fingers to be able to do it. So certain things aren't that complicated because I've worked on them for a long time, getting these ideas out into my fingers. And certain things can be harder, but I could sit at the piano right now and play some music that you might feel like, wow, well, that's complicated or whatever. But for me, I'm just it's almost like talking. I'm just letting it flow out of my brain. Where it might get harder, where it might enter the range of complicated is, let's say I'm in a room and Mike Mangini's there and John's there, and we start doing something and Mike says, wow, I can play in 13/8 time, which is a very, interesting odd time signature, while you do that thing in 4/4. And then when we accent, when, the thing wraps around, why don't you accent on every 9th beat? And then I go, oh, okay, that might take some figuring out to do. So we can get into a more complex situation, which might need some calculation and, even to the point of maybe writing it out and seeing the way things line up. So, Dream Theater is known to do things that are let's call it, for lack of a better word right now, like an academic kind of thing, to make something that might end
Yeah.
up being a head spinner. And that might be hard to do for us because we have to work it out. What's not so hard, but might be hard for other people that don't have the training or haven't practiced as much, is just the natural output. Like I can jam in 7, in the time of 7, 8 without even thinking about it, or 5, or improvise in the style of Gentle Giant, or Yes, to a point. And that's not necessarily that hard, but that's because there's a lot of work, a lot of time, to get that fluidity, to get that
Right.
craft
Because a
going.
lot of musicians, I remember I took guitar lessons when I was in high school, and I remember my teacher telling me, like, a lot of the rock stars that I looked up to, he said they don't even know how to read music. Like Angus Young from AC/DC doesn't read music, just
Yeah.
plays by ear.
Yes, right. But just because they don't know how to read music doesn't mean they didn't spend time honing their craft,
Oh,
whatever
no,
it is.
for sure. It's just a different way
I
to,
don't know Angus's story, but he probably sat there for a while with his amp and trying to get the sound he wanted until he got it, and then he could reproduce it, and especially under pressure, and just like kind of really dial whatever it is in.
do you guys write, when you write the music, do you write it out like on a board or something, or how does that work?
What's interesting is that, like, I literally sit there and I have a piece of music. I have a music notation book, and I'll jot down things. I don't have like a memory like John Petrucci, who's got an uncanny memory, probably because he doesn't even rely on, read. He can read music. I know he can read music, but it's not the general thing that he's always doing.
Mm-hmm.
But with me, I read music. I play classical music. I take my pencil to the page. I'm writing stuff out. So I kind of rely on it. And a lot of times, some things I don't need to write down, but other things I like to write down, because then I can start to line things up and do, like, okay, if I play this, da, 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 then I can see, oh, da, 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 and well, what happens if I put, a guitar note there and maybe one there, and I can look at it and go, that's really cool, So I'm kind of, that's another approach that could happen as well. So for me, that tool of being able to write things down is very useful.
Yeah, no, the process, it's fascinating. So the new single, the latest single, is called Invisible Monster. Of course, it's a masterpiece, like every song you guys do. And then The Alien, that's another new song. That's brilliant. Great riff in there. So these are part of the upcoming album. It's called A View from the Top of the World, right? It comes out October 22nd.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, tell us more about what we can expect from this album. I've heard the 2 songs and they sound great. And then I think there's 5 other ones, right?
Yeah. So what's interesting is, of course, everybody, Dream Theater fans are incredibly active. They all have opinions. They're all experts,
Mm-hmm.
which is an interesting space for us all to kind of, as the artists in the band. It's interesting to have that all happening all the time. But I would say that, it's hard when you release a tune or two to totally know what's coming. And everybody wants to like listen to Invisible Monster and say, oh, that's what the Dream Theater album is. Oh, well, then I'll love it. Or I don't know, but meanwhile, that's a small, offering from a big work. So anybody who's listening to this and hasn't heard the album yet, know that there's a whole lot more going on, like stylistically,
Right.
than either of those songs. I would say that if you had to like judge a book by its cover, that the better cover to judge it from is The Alien, because that one has a little bit more, it's a little bit more like open spirited. It's not trying to be more of a concise song. And it's a little bit more what the album is about, because first of all, many of the songs on the album are long. Most of the songs are longer. So The Alien kind of tells the story.
Okay.
Virtuosity, it has the metal, it has the proggy, it has the melodic. It kind of shows you what we were going for in the bigger picture of this album. But again, even that doesn't cover everything, because it's one song, and we went in other directions as well.
Is there a theme that ties it all together? Because that last song, the song of the title track, "A View from the Top of the World," it's a 20-minute song.
Right. It's a 20-minute song, and it's not a concept album. Each song is like its own. Each song is really its own thing.
Okay.
So, I mean, if anything, that ties it together is kind of like the desire that we had to make an album in a certain way. We knew we wanted to have heaviness to it. We wanted to have really good hooks, like the vocal sections. We always like to be as kind of catchy as possible. We wanted to have some really cool leads, nice, trading off between myself and John Petrucci. So there's the elements. I think the kind of elements tie it together more than anything else, because I think every Dream Theater album, to a certain extent, you can kind of almost put in a particular category. Like somebody says, oh, Octavarium, that's like your prog album, or Train of Thought, that's your heavy album, or like, doesn't necessarily, it doesn't totally ring true for me, like those kind of like categorizations, because those albums are deep and there's always a little bit of everything that we do. Even on Train of Thought, there's a lot of proggy stuff on there too. It's it's like As I Am is on that album. So you can find things that you might say, well, that's the heavy album. But the reality is, you have like a Stream of Consciousness, that one of the songs in Train of Thought, that's really more prog than anything else. So
yeah. No, it's cool. And so this is interesting because a lot of the work that you do, people don't know that it's your work on there, unless it's like a true piano or a synthesizer. They can hear you doing that, but you make a lot of other sounds with the keyboard. So explain that. Like, what other sounds can people hear on this album that they might not know that it's your work that you're doing?
First of all, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, to a certain extent, as a keyboardist, you have to be devoid of ego, because people don't always hear or know what it is you're doing. They hear a sound, but they can't pinpoint it. Unless it's a piano or an organ, they can say, oh, that's the keyboardist.
Yeah, so is that kind of like Guns N' Roses? They have 2 keyboard players, and I'm like, I'm not hearing keyboards on all these songs. So sometimes that's a similar kind of thing.
What. Sometimes you don't know what's what.
Yeah,
like you've heard this new album, right?
Well, I've heard the 2 songs. Yeah.
Oh, you've heard the 2
songs.
No,
I didn't get an advanced copy. That would have been cool, but.
Oh, okay. Well, you got to scream at your rep or whatever.
Yeah. I'm at the bottom of the food chain, but yeah.
Oh no. So, but anyway, well, I'm the orchestra, I'm the chorus, I am the piano, the organ, I'm the like special effects guy, the pads and all this stuff. And so any sound that's basically not a guitar, a bass, or drums or the vocals is me. So there's a lot of things that a keyboardist does. Like one of the roles that basically means that I have to give up my ego is a lot of times I'll play a supportive sound to the guitar, like a heavy sound that I made that gives maybe some extra body or weight or interesting character to like a riff that I'm doubling with the guitar. But you wouldn't say, oh, I hear the keyboards. Some people are more trained, they'll hear, oh, that's that snarling pig sound, like one of the cool like heavy sounds that I developed that does go with the guitar really well. It's almost become like a signature kind of like sound that people recognize that I use to double like guitar riffs and stuff.
Okay.
So that's one thing you can kind of listen for. The other thing is like on this new album, there's a lot of orchestral stuff, and I did it all with my keyboards. And there's some really amazing virtual instruments out there, that software-based instruments that I can just do incredible strings and brass and winds and just put my hands down and it sounds like fucking God, So
you don't need a full, I mean, obviously you would do the keyboards in concert, but when you're recording, you don't ever bring in a full orchestra or choir.
Well, Dream Theater has, like
in the past,
Astonishing, we did.
But on this one, you didn't.
This album, we didn't. And I took the role, which I often do, of bringing in the orchestral sounds. So like I have a buddy who has a company that's called Plug-in Guru, and there's a software called Unify, UNIFY. And he does this thing where he lets you basically access all these virtual instruments, different companies, but you can put them together in one. So I can have a tremendous brass sound from like 8DO in my left hand, and then on my right hand I can be playing the Spitfire strings, and then the choir is coming from who the hell knows where, but it's this big sound that I can get to with my 2 hands like right away. So stuff like that is on this album, and it kind of gave us this thing. There's even a sound on the title track. It's literally the sound when I play it. I'm playing the theme, which you'll hear when you hear the album, but it's the sound of 66 trombones. And the reason it's 66 trombones is because that's the virtual instrument that this company called 8DO, which is the number 8 DIO, put together. They got 66 trombonists in a room together. That's material for a lot of jokes. But anyway, 66 trombone players in a room together, and they recorded them playing like every note in different articulations.
Okay.
And then as a keyboardist, I can go blah, blah, and get to that sound. And that is part of like what makes my sound on this album. So you could hear that, like these really big orchestral sounds, and also some really big, cool sounding choirs that I'm playing, like these choir sounds. And I didn't really do that so much on this album, but the choir thing on virtual instruments has gotten so deep to where I can actually type in words and stuff. And then as I play, like let's say I type in "hello there," I go "hello there," like, I have this
Wow.
thing online, which you guys can look up that are watching. Just type in like Rudess, like Bohemian Rhapsody, and I
Oh,
literally did this thing with a choir sound on the keyboard where I typed in the words. You have to be very kind of like exact with the way you type them and add extra vowels or whatever. But as I'm playing, it's speaking. The choir, is this the real
oh, that's
life? Is
so
this just
cool.
fantasy? And it's really, really cool. So there's a lot of, my world is open to lots of possibilities. The other thing I just want to point out, which I've been proud to highlight, is on the title track, which when you hear it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It breaks down in the middle of the 20 minutes. I don't know exactly, maybe at the 10-minute mark. And I'm playing my iPad with one of my own custom apps because, I have a company called Wisdom with a Z Music.
Is this the
And we make
Geoshred thing?
Geoshred, yeah. So I'm playing a beautiful like cello sound, but I'm doing it on the iPad, expressing it on the iPad. And John Petrucci and I are playing basically a duet where he's playing the guitar and I'm playing this cello. So
Wow. So that's what that Geoshred app does. You developed this with people from Stanford. I mean, what
right.
was your role exactly? I mean, you don't know, you're not actually writing the code and stuff for it,
No,
are
no,
you?
no. I'm not a coder, although I've learned a lot about it, but I'm still not a coder. My role was kind of as a vision person. Like, what do I want an app to do?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I've gotten really much better at it. I have a new app coming out on my
Hmm.
birthday, which is November 4th. It's an app. It's going to be called Polywave, all one word, Polywave. And it's an idea that I had, which I found a coder to help implement it. But once I have the idea, I talk to the people and we make it a reality. And then he starts, like a coding guy will put together something. I'll say, no, but can we do this? Can we do that? Can you make the waveform so I can move it around with my finger? Can we transpose it? Can we add, low frequency oscillators? So I start thinking, what do I want to have in this, knowing what's, to a pretty good extent, what's possible and what's not. So then all the discussion will go back and forth, like, oh, I can do this, but maybe the user interface is getting too crowded. And I'll say, well, that's cool. Well, let's just do this instead. And so, so with Geoshred, it was very much about, like, I was like kind of supervising, if you will, like
Mm-hmm.
what this thing is really going to sound like, what I want the playing experience to be like. And then it's up to my partners to like make that happen because they're, technical wizards
Yeah.
and pros.
You're like the Steve Jobs of this company and they're doing all
Yeah,
the,
to a certain extent, yeah.
yeah. How smart are you? I mean, you talk about all this stuff, the apps, the music, going to Juilliard. Have you ever had your IQ tested? It's got to be up there, right?
I think what it comes down to is that I'm very one-sided. I'm really, really, obviously, into music, and I can think music and talk about music, but if this can come through my hands really naturally. And it's really using a different part of the brain, as we've discovered. I'm sure you've
Mm-hmm.
seen
Mm-hmm.
interesting things about musicians. So I don't know what my IQ is. I don't remember from school days or whatever, but I'm so passionate about it all and I'm so
Yeah.
inspired. You get a lot of ideas. The ideas kind of flow in my head. It's not always about music. I also just a creative person. I have ideas for all kinds of different things, but primarily I focus them on musical stuff. And I'm also, what they call a good user, in the sense that I use these things. Like somebody will send me like the raw kind of like app that maybe we were discussing, and I put my hand on it, and I'm good at kind of like understanding like what works, what doesn't, what's confusing, where should we go from here. I just did an app that just came out, actually. It's for iOS, for Android, and also for desktop. It's called Rhythm. It's like rhythm but with a V. It's actually a free app, so if
Hmm.
anybody's listening right now, they can go check it out. It's on iOS, Android, desktop. But Rhythm is this very cool app that you could think of it like kind of a visualizer, like one of these music visualizers, but it's not like the Apple visualizer or anything like that, in the sense that it's very programmable. Like you could get it,
Oh.
you could load in your own song into it, and then you can have it creating mandala effects, but you can kind of like use parameters to kind of do what you want and shape it the way you want. So you could mix an image and a mandala effect, and it's just, it's pretty easy to use, and one could create a music video with it. But I love the whole, I'm so sensitive to like combining music with visuals. I kind of am not, what's the word for that? I can't think of it, but some people are, they like see audio when they look at colors. Or,
is that part of your role with Dream Theater? Do you
synesthesia is
okay?
I don't necessarily have that, but I'm close.
Okay.
I really combine those two worlds in my head. So Vivim kind of does that. That's the reason I got into it. So it's my latest app that's released. Actually, it's pretty cool.
That's very cool. Yeah, I have some music teacher friends. I'm sure they would love that kind of stuff. So, and then you guys are on tour. You have people should check the website. I'll put that in the show notes for the tour dates. But
we had to postpone our tour that was going to happen. We would have been going out very soon to start, but we postponed the tour due to everything that's going on, in the world today.
So those like the tour dates coming up are not, the October ones are not going to happen then.
Not going to happen.
Okay. All right. Well, it's going to happen in February then?
Yes.
Okay. February, and the new album comes out October 22nd. Anything else?
When are you airing this show?
What's that?
When are you releasing this show?
Probably tomorrow, Friday.
Okay, so we're releasing a little bit before the actual.
Yeah, to kind of get the buzz going, and I'll share this with all the Dream Theater fans, and I'm sure they'll critique that I don't know anything about music.
You know what? You can't win with our lovely fans because they all have a lot of opinions, and
I'm sure.
It's great that we could create music and an energy that people want to be involved in.
Yeah.
No matter what they say, and some things are positive, some things are negative, whatever. But the fact that they all care so much and they want to chime in.
Yes.
No, that album sucked. This one's the best one.
Right.
I like this keyboard player. I like that one. I like this singer. It's all a bunch of. As a musician in the band, I can't pay that much attention to it.
Sure.
But I can be complimented by the fact that there is that much energy around the band. Right?
Yes.
I mean, you could look at it from another point of view and say, wow, their bands are really divisive. But the fact that they care so much.
That's very cool. Absolutely. Well, I'd like to end each episode with a charity or nonprofit. Is there something or cause that you want to support here at the end?
Oh, well, that's nice. I mean, there's MusiCares, right?
Yeah. I've promoted that many times. We can put that one in the show notes. So after people buy the new Dream Theater, they can throw a few bucks that way.
Perfect.
Okay. Awesome. Well,
all right.
Thank you so much for doing this. This is a lot of fun.
It was fun, man. So nice to chat with you, Chuck, and we'll see you on the road at some point.
Yeah, hopefully the Phoenix, I think it was Mesa you were going to play. Hopefully that one gets rescheduled then.
Yes, I'm sure it will.
Okay. Thanks, Jordan.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. Jordan Rudess, Dream Theater, Liquid Tension Experiment, solo artist. Make sure to check out all his work on Spotify or YouTube. It's really just brilliant. Check out his Instagram. It's really cool to see him play. There are some bird's eye view videos of him playing the piano. And it's really fascinating to me just to see how effortless he makes it look. So, and of course, make sure to check out the new Dream Theater album, A View from the Top of the World, and check the website for up-to-date tour concert dates that hopefully will be revised soon since some of them were canceled. And I hope you enjoyed this interview. And you can follow me on social media or subscribe to the YouTube channel for future episodes. And if you didn't enjoy the interview, just remember my name is Mitch LaFawn, and this is Rock Talk. So thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your day, and remember to shoot for the moon.